Welcome back. This is BL Stories for You. I'm an indie author dedicated to original BL storytelling. From high school drama to fantasy worlds, everything you hear is written by me. I'm so glad you're here for this journey. Let's begin.
Aarhiya didn't say anything after the words left Kenar's lips. I love you. They lingered in the air between them, soft, but heavy. For a moment, everything felt still. But inside Aarhiya, it was the complete opposite. It hurt. More than he expected. His chest tightened, his fingers curling slightly against Kenar's clothes as the weight of those words settled deep in him. Because the person Kenar was looking at wasn't really him. Kenar was looking at Lenreya, not Aarhiya. And that truth cut deeper than anything else. Kenar, who had been watching him closely, slowly began to frown. At first, he thought Aarhiya was just shy, or overwhelmed. But the longer the silence stretched, the more uneasy he felt. Aarhiya, he called softly. No response. His brows pulled together in concern. Is something wrong? Aarhiya finally looked at him, but his eyes were conflicted, far from the warmth Kenar had been hoping to see. That alone made his chest tighten. Do you hate it? Kenar asked quietly. Aarhiya blinked. Hate what? My confession, Kenar said, his voice a little more guarded now. Do you hate that I said it? Aarhiya shook his head quickly. No, that's not it. His voice was soft, almost strained. Then, after a brief pause, he said. Let's go down. Kenar hesitated, confused by the sudden shift, but nodded anyway. Without another word, he guided them back down to the ground. Their feet touched the earth gently. But the moment they landed, the distance between them felt different. Heavier. Kenar didn't let go of him immediately. Instead, he searched Aarhiya's face, trying to understand what was going on. Aarhiya, he called again, more firmly this time. Talk to me. Aarhiya stepped back slightly. That small movement didn't go unnoticed. Kenar's expression hardened just a little. What's wrong? Aarhiya swallowed. Then finally. Don't love me. The words came out quietly, but they hit hard. Kenar froze. What? Aarhiya looked away, unable to hold his gaze. You shouldn't love me, he continued. I'm not who you think I am. Kenar's confusion deepened. What does that even mean? Aarhiya shook his head, frustration creeping into his voice. This wasn't supposed to happen, he said. Kenar stared at him. Now he was completely lost. None of this made sense. Aarhiya, he said, his tone more serious now, you're not saying anything clearly. He stepped closer again. Do you feel the same way or not? That question hung heavily between them. Aarhiya's lips parted slightly, but no words came out. Kenar exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair in frustration. You're making this harder than it needs to be, he muttered. Then he looked at him again, this time with a kind of raw honesty Aarhiya had never seen before. I've never felt like this in my entire life. Aarhiya's heart skipped. Kenar continued, his voice steady but emotional underneath. I tried to ignore it, he admitted. I told myself it was a weakness. That if I let myself feel anything, my enemies would use it against me. His gaze softened. But the more I tried to push it away, the worse it got. I was the one who ended up hurting. Aarhiya's chest tightened. Kenar's voice dropped slightly. Loving someone doesn't make me weak. There was a quiet conviction in his tone now. It makes me stronger. He held Aarhiya's gaze firmly. Because now, I have someone I want to protect. Silence followed. Aarhiya stood there, his chest rising and falling unevenly. Kenar's words were still hanging in the air, heavy with sincerity, with emotion, with something real. And that made it even harder. For a moment, Aarhiya just stared at him. Then slowly, he shook his head. "You don't understand," he said quietly. Kenar frowned. "Then make me understand." Aarhiya hesitated. His fingers clenched at his sides as if he was fighting himself. "I can't be the person you love," he finally said. Kenar didn't respond immediately. He just watched him, waiting. "There's something about me," Aarhiya continued, his voice tightening. "A secret." Kenar's expression didn't change, but his remained quiet. "And if you find out the truth," Aarhiya added, his voice almost dropping to a whisper, "there's no way you'll still feel the same." Silence. Aarhiya forced himself to say it. "You might even want me dead." That made Kenar's brows knit together. But instead of anger, or hesitation, he stepped closer, grabbing Aarhiya's face. "I don't care." Aarhiya blinked, caught off guard. Kenar's voice was firm now. "Whatever it is you're hiding, it doesn't matter to me." Aarhiya shook his head immediately. "It does." "No," Kenar cut in. "It doesn't." There was a stubborn certainty in his tone. "You think I'm going to stop loving you because of some secret?" he asked. "After everything?" His voice softened just slightly. "Tell me," he said. "Whatever it is, we'll figure it out. Together." For a split second, Aarhiya almost gave in. Almost. But then reality crashed back in. His identity. His purpose. Everything at stake. He couldn't. He just couldn't. Aarhiya took a step back. Then another. And just like that, the warmth in his expression disappeared. "It's not possible," he said flatly. Kenar froze. Aarhiya lifted his chin slightly, forcing his voice to stay steady. "Besides," he added, colder now, "I don't feel the same way." The words landed like a blow. Kenar stared at him. "What?" "I'm not in love with you," Aarhiya said. There was no hesitation in his tone this time. At least, not on the surface. Kenar let out a quiet breath, almost like he didn't believe what he just heard. "No," he said under his breath. "That's not true." Aarhiya didn't respond. Kenar's gaze hardened. "The way you look at me," he continued, his voice rising slightly, "the way you act, your kisses. They tell a completely different story." Aarhiya's heart pounded painfully in his chest. But he forced himself to stay still. "This is for your own good," he said quietly. "Just because we shared a few moments, doesn't mean anything." Each word felt heavier than the last. "We're from completely different worlds," he added. "Nothing will come out of this, even if we try." Kenar didn't move. Didn't speak. Aarhiya looked away. "All I want right now," he said softly, "is to go back to Luminar." That word lingered in the air. To forget everything that happened here. That did it. Kenar's face changed. The hurt was no longer hidden. "Is that really what you want?" he asked quietly. Aarhiya's resolve wavered. Just for a second. Because the way Kenar was looking at him, it almost broke him. Before he could retreat further, Kenar suddenly reached out and pulled him closer. Aarhiya gasped softly at the sudden contact. "Forget the different worlds," Kenar said, his voice low, almost desperate now. "Forget everything." He held Aarhiya's gaze firmly. "Just tell me the truth." Aarhiya's breath caught. "Do you really not love me?" Silence. Long. Painful. Aarhiya felt like his chest was going to cave in as he rested his head against Kenar's chest. Everything inside him screamed the truth. Every heartbeat. Every memory. Every moment they had shared. But he couldn't say it. He couldn't. So he forced himself to meet Kenar's eyes. And lied. "I don't love you." The moment the words left his lips, Something shattered. Not just in Kenar, but in him too. Kenar slowly let go of him. The strength seemed to drain out of his body all at once. He stepped back, his expression blank at first, then slowly turning into something else. Something broken. Is it because of Nello? He asked quietly. Aarhiya didn't even have the strength to argue anymore. Think whatever you want, he replied. Kenar's jaw tightened. Aarhiya lowered his gaze. I'm sorry, he said softly. For hurting you. Then, after a brief pause. If you want to spare yourself the pain. His voice trembled slightly. Just let me go. Silence. Aarhiya turned. And walked away. Each step felt heavier than the last. But he didn't stop. He didn't look back. Because if he did, he knew he wouldn't be able to leave. Behind him, Kenar stood frozen. Completely still. Completely shattered. Kenar stood there for a long time after Aarhiya left. He didn't move. Didn't call out. Didn't even try to follow him. It was as if something inside him had completely shut down. Everything that had been meant to be special now felt meaningless. Slowly, Kenar turned. His eyes landed on the table. On the wine. Without thinking, he walked over and picked up the bottle. He didn't bother with a cup this time. He just drank. A long, heavy gulp. The liquid burned down his throat, harsh and unfamiliar. Kenar had never been one to drink. He had always avoided it, always preferred a clear mind. But right now, clarity was the last thing he wanted. He drank again. And again. Each swallow doing nothing, and yet everything at the same time. Because the pain was still there. Sharp. Unrelenting. Aarhiya's voice echoed in his head. I don't love you. Kenar shut his eyes briefly and took another drink, gripping the bottle tighter. For the first time in a very long time, he felt completely helpless. By the time Aarhiya returned to the palace, the sky had already begun to darken. He walked through the halls quietly, his steps slow, almost dragging. He looked empty. Like a shadow of himself. Servants who passed by greeted him softly, but he didn't seem to notice any of them. Not even Todi. She spotted him almost immediately and hurried toward him, relief crossing her face. He stopped, but didn't turn fully. I was looking for you, she said, stepping closer. How did it go? With His Majesty? There was a small smile on her face, like she already expected a certain answer. But Aarhiya didn't return it. He didn't even look at her properly. I'm tired, he said quietly. Todi's smile faded slightly. I want to rest, he added. I don't want to talk to anyone. There was something off in his voice. Something heavy. Before Todi could ask anything else, Aarhiya walked past her. Straight to his room. The door opened. Then shut. Todi stood there for a moment, confused. Then. She heard it. Soft at first. Then clearer. Crying. Her expression changed instantly. She took a step toward the door, then stopped herself. Something had gone terribly wrong. And she didn't understand what. As she stood there, her thoughts drifted back to the night of the moon festival. The moment Aarhiya had flown. The moment he had glowed like the sun. She could still see it clearly. The entire kingdom had been in awe. And in that moment, she had known. Aarhiya was not ordinary. Not even close. But as shocking as that had been, it wasn't the thing that had shaken her the most. Her mind shifted to something else. Something Kenar had told her. It had been earlier that day. Kenar had called her quietly, his tone unusually serious. I need you to prepare something, he had said. Todi had bowed. Of course, your majesty. A dinner, he added. At the training valley. Todi blinked in surprise. The training valley. Kenar nodded. I want it to be special. There had been a pause. Then he turned to Todi and said it. I'm going to confess to Lenreya. Todi had stared at him, completely stunned. Your majesty. Kenar's expression had been calm, but there was something softer beneath it. I'm in love with her, he said. Todi had been speechless. But Lenreya is just a maid, she had said carefully. And, we don't even know where she's from. Kenar hadn't hesitated. Once we marry, he replied, she won't be just a maid anymore. Todi's eyes widened slightly. She will become the empress. The certainty in his voice had left no room for doubt. Todi had studied him carefully. Are you sure about this? Are you sure of your feelings? She asked gently. Kenar met her gaze. I'm sure, Todi. I know what I'm doing. His tone softened just a little as he held her hands. Todi, since my mother died, you've been like family to me. I will always be honest with you. Ever since I ascended the throne, I never chose who would stand by my side. They were all chosen for me. This is the first time I'm choosing someone for myself. Her expression shifted at that. So trust me. Todi had sighed quietly. I suspected it, she admitted. The way you looked at her, the way you treated her. She shook her head slightly. I just hoped I was wrong. Kenar said nothing. Todi continued, more seriously now. The other wives won't accept this easily. Especially Lenreya. Her brows furrowed. There will be opposition. Kenar's expression didn't change. I'm prepared for that. Todi had looked at him for a long moment. Then slowly, she smiled. Because for the first time in a long time, he had looked happy. Truly happy. If this is what you want, she said softly, then I'll support you. Back in the present, Todi stood outside Aarhiya's door. Listening. The sound of quiet crying continued from inside. Her heart sank. What went wrong? She murmured to herself. That night, Todi stood just outside the palace gates, her hands folded in front of her as she waited. She didn't know why she felt so restless, but something in her chest refused to settle. Her eyes stayed fixed on the dark path leading up to the palace. Waiting. Watching. Then finally, she saw movement in the distance. It was Kenar on his black stallion. Todi straightened immediately. But as he got closer, her brows began to furrow. Something wasn't right. Kenar's posture was off. His body slumped slightly forward on the horse, his usual composed presence completely gone. Your Majesty, she called out as she hurried toward him. Just as she reached him, Kenar swayed. Badly. His body tilted to the side, almost slipping off the horse completely. Careful, one of the guards shouted as they quickly grabbed him, steadying him before he could fall. Todi froze for half a second. Shocked. Kenar, drunk? She had never seen him like this before. Not once. She rushed forward immediately. What happened? She asked, reaching for him. But Kenar barely reacted. His eyes were half-lidded, unfocused, and his breathing was uneven. The faint smell of alcohol clung to him. He muttered something under his breath, but it didn't make sense. Your Majesty, can you hear me? Todi asked, supporting his arm over her shoulder. No response. Just a quiet, slurred murmur. The guards looked uneasy. He's had too much to drink, one of them said carefully. Todi frowned. Too much. Kenar didn't drink. Ever. Her grip on him tightened slightly. Let's get him inside. With the guard's help, she carefully guided him into the palace, step by step. Kenar stumbled more than once along the way, his weight leaning heavily against her. By the time they reached his chambers, Todi was already certain. Something had gone very, very wrong. They laid him gently on the bed. Todi dismissed the guards with a nod, and once they left, she adjusted his position, removing his outer robe and making sure he was at least somewhat comfortable. Kenar lay there, still, his breathing slowly evening out as sleep began to take over. Todi sat beside the bed for a moment, studying his face. Even now, there was a faint tension in his expression. Like the pain hadn't left him, even in sleep. Then, he murmured. Softly. Almost inaudible. Lenreya. Todi stilled. Her eyes widened slightly. Again. Lenreya. Her heart sank. That was all she needed to hear. She looked down at him quietly, the pieces slowly coming together. Whatever had happened between them, it wasn't good. She let out a small sigh. I see. For a moment, she considered doing something, talking to Lenreya, intervening somehow. But then she shook her head. No. I won't interfere, she murmured softly to herself. Deep beneath the palace. A dungeon. Cold. Dark. Silent. The air itself felt heavy, like it carried secrets that had been buried for centuries. Torches flickered faintly along the stone walls, casting long, distorted shadows across the ground. Several figures stood gathered in the center of the chamber. All dressed in black. Their faces partially hidden beneath hoods. Among them, Advisor Durian. Lenreya. And a handful of powerful ministers who, in the light of day, wore polished smiles and carried influence within the palace. But here, they were different. Quiet murmurs filled the space as they waited. Then suddenly, the air shifted. A presence. Heavy. Commanding. The whispers died instantly. From the far end of the dungeon, footsteps echoed slowly against the stone floor. Sakador had arrived. He stepped into the dim light, his expression unreadable, his presence alone enough to make the room feel even colder. Behind him, stood Yami. Head lowered. Silent. The moment Sakador took his seat, something strange happened. One by one, the figures in the room began to change. Their forms flickered. Eyes glowing faintly. Features sharpening into something inhuman. Their true identities revealed. Demons. They bowed their heads in unison. Lord Sakador. But he raised a hand slightly. I know why you're here, he said calmly. His voice was low, controlled, but carried a quiet danger. The room fell completely silent. Sakador continued. Lenreya. The name alone seemed to shift the tension in the room. I've seen what she did, Sakador continued. The power she displayed at the festival. His eyes darkened slightly. We underestimated her. Lenreya's jaw tightened. Her fingers curled slightly at her sides. Why? She asked bitterly. Why is she so important? There was clear irritation in her tone. To her, Aarhiya was nothing more than an obstacle. A nuisance. But Sakador's expression changed, just slightly. Serious. Tense. Because, he said slowly, she may not be just anyone. The room stilled. Sakador's voice dropped. She may be a descendant of the Decriste. That name alone sent a ripple through the room. Even the demons shifted uneasily. Lenreya frowned. The Decriste, she repeated. Sakador nodded. A bloodline blessed by the gods themselves, he explained. A family of mages created to have power, and dominion over demons. The torches flickered as if reacting to his words. For centuries, Sakador continued, we have hidden ourselves. Taking different forms. wearing human faces. His gaze swept across the room. We recruited loyal servants. Worshippers. People like you. We hunted the Decriste, he went on. Destroyed their lineage. One by one, until there was nothing left. A pause. Sakador's jaw tightened slightly. Or so I thought. The room fell into a deeper silence. There is still one left, he said. And she has found her way to Umbraeth. Lenreya's expression darkened. And now, Sakador added, she threatens everything we've been building. His voice sharpened slightly. Before her powers fully awaken. He leaned forward. We must kill her. There it was. Clear. Final. Lenreya didn't hesitate. A small, cold smile appeared on her lips. I'd be more than happy to do that, she said. There was venom in her tone. She's been nothing but a thorn in my flesh. Sakador looked at her carefully. I will give you that chance, he said. But, he added, his voice turning colder, you will not make the same mistake you made before. With Kenar still around, Sakador continued, getting close to Lenreya won't be easy. His gaze hardened. You must make it, unnoticeable. Lenreya nodded slowly. I understand. Advisor Durian stepped forward then. I will handle the Emperor, he said calmly. Sakador's attention shifted to him. Durian clasped his hands behind his back. I'll create a situation that requires his presence away from the palace, he continued. Something urgent enough that he cannot ignore. A small pause. And while he's gone, Lenreya will be left vulnerable. Sakador studied him for a moment. Then nodded. Good. Yami stepped forward quietly in front of Sakador. Her voice was soft, but steady. I can get close to her, she said. Lenreya glanced at her. Yami continued, she trusts me, at least enough. Her gaze lowered slightly. I'll help ensure the plan succeeds. Sakador's eyes moved between them. Lenreya. Durian. Yami. Then finally, he stood up. Do not fail this time. His voice echoed through the dungeon. There was no room for error in it. The torches flickered violently for a brief moment. And everything went dark. Lenreya's eyes snapped open. She inhaled sharply. Her surroundings had changed. No dungeon. No torches. She was back in her chambers. Sitting upright on her bed. Her fingers tightened slightly against the sheets. A slow smile spread across her lips. Cold. Determined. This time, she whispered. Her eyes darkened. I won't fail. That night, sleep refused to come. Aarhiya lay on his bed, staring at the ceiling, his mind replaying everything over and over again. Kenar's voice. I love you. His chest tightened. He turned to the side, shutting his eyes. But it didn't help. If anything, it made it worse. The memory of Kenar's expression, the hurt in his eyes when he walked away. Aarhiya sat up abruptly. I can't do this, he whispered to himself. He swung his legs off the bed and stood up, running a hand through his hair in frustration. The room suddenly felt too small. Too suffocating. Without thinking, he slipped out quietly and made his way to the palace gardens. The night air was cool and calm. The garden was peaceful, lit only by the soft glow of lanterns and the faint shimmer of moonlight. Aarhiya walked slowly until he reached a quiet spot beneath a tree. He sat down. For a moment, he just stared ahead. Then, almost instinctively, he summoned his flute. He brought it to his lips. And began to play. The sound was soft at first. Gentle. But there was something deeper beneath it. Something aching. Each note carried the weight of everything he couldn't say. The confusion. The longing. The pain. It filled the quiet garden, drifting through the night air like a quiet cry. Not far away, in his chambers, Kenar stirred. His eyes slowly opened. At first, he didn't know what had woken him. Then he heard it. The flute. Soft. Familiar. His chest tightened instantly. Lenreya. He sat up slowly, listening. There was no mistaking it. Without hesitation, he stood and walked toward the balcony. The moment he stepped outside, he saw him. Aarhiya. Sitting alone in the garden, his figure small against the wide darkness. Still playing. Kenar leaned slightly against the railing, his gaze fixed on him. He didn't call out. Didn't move closer. He just watched. And listened. The music. It wasn't just beautiful. It was sad. Painfully so. Kenar's brows furrowed slightly. Why, he murmured to himself. Why was he hurting like this? And still pushing him away? It didn't make sense. If Aarhiya truly didn't feel anything, then why did he look like that? Why did he sound like that? What are you hiding? He whispered. The next morning. Knock. Knock. Aarhiya groaned softly, burying his face into his pillow. Go away, he mumbled. The door opened anyway. Todi walked in without waiting. Aarhiya, she snapped. He winced slightly at her tone. You've been neglecting your duties. His Majesty has been asking for you. Aarhiya slowly sat up, his hair slightly messy, eyes still tired. Todi, please, he said, rubbing his face. Can I have just one day off? She raised an eyebrow. Why? Aarhiya hesitated. It'll be awkward. Todi narrowed her eyes. Awkward, she repeated. Why? Aarhiya looked away. Silence. Todi's expression shifted slightly. Did something happen between you and the Emperor? Aarhiya didn't answer immediately. He bit his lip, clearly debating whether to say anything. Then finally. Yes. Todi sighed. I knew it. She walked further into the room and sat down. For the longest time, she began, I wasn't sure about you. Aarhiya looked up slightly. You came from nowhere, she continued. No background. No history. And suddenly, you're close to the Emperor. Her tone wasn't harsh, just honest. A ruler like Kenar carries the weight of an entire kingdom. He doesn't have the luxury of distractions. Aarhiya lowered his gaze. But, Todi added, her voice softening, everything changed when you came. He blinked. She smiled faintly. In just 2 months. I saw a different side of him. Aarhiya looked at her, surprised. He used to be cold, she said. Distant. Like he was just, existing for the sake of his duties. She shook her head slightly. But with you around, he started to feel human again. A small pause. For the first time, he was thinking about himself. Aarhiya's chest tightened. Todi leaned forward slightly. So I changed my mind about you. Her gaze softened. I thought, maybe you're exactly what he needs. Aarhiya swallowed hard. Todi, he started. But she cut him off gently. It's obvious you love him. Aarhiya froze. That's the only thing that should matter, she continued. Silence. Aarhiya looked away again. You wouldn't understand, he said quietly. Todi frowned slightly. Then make me understand. But Aarhiya just shook his head. It's not that simple, he murmured. And from the look on his face, it really wasn't. Kenar had just finished getting dressed when the door opened. Aarhiya stepped in quietly. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The air shifted almost immediately, turning stiff, uncomfortable. Aarhiya forced himself to move forward anyway. "Good morning, Your Majesty," he said, his voice polite, but lacking its usual warmth. Kenar glanced at him briefly, then looked away as he adjusted his sleeve. "You don't have to come in here if it's going to feel like this," he said flatly. Aarhiya paused. "Like what?" he asked, even though he already knew. Kenar let out a quiet breath. "Awkward," he replied simply. That word hung heavily between them. Aarhiya swallowed, straightening slightly. "I'm fine," he said quickly. "I still have my duties. I won't neglect them just because of," he trailed off, unable to finish the sentence. Kenar's eyes flickered toward him for a second. "Whatever this is." Silence. Then Kenar gave a small nod. "Fine," he said. He turned toward the door. "Come with me." A short while later, Kenar walked into the throne room, Aarhiya and several palace staff following behind him. The ministers were already gathered, waiting. The moment Kenar appeared, they all bowed. "Your Majesty." Kenar walked past them without a word and took his seat on the throne. "Let's begin," he said. And just like that, the long, exhausting routine started. One minister after another stepped forward, talking endlessly about trade, disputes, supplies, land issues. It was the same as always. Dry. Repetitive. Endless. But today, Kenar wasn't really listening. Not completely. Because every now and then, his eyes drifted straight to Aarhiya. And every time they did, he found Aarhiya already looking at him. Or quickly looking away. Their eyes met more than once. Each time, the tension only grew thicker. Unspoken words lingering between them. Unresolved feelings pressing down on both of them. It didn't go unnoticed. Advisor Durian, who had been quietly observing everything, narrowed his eyes slightly. Then, slowly, he stood up. "Your Majesty," he began smoothly. Kenar's attention shifted to him. Durian turned slightly, his gaze landing on Aarhiya. "I believe congratulations are in order," he said. Aarhiya blinked, caught off guard. Durian smiled faintly. "It seems you've become quite popular." Murmurs spread lightly across the room. "The people of Umbraeth can't stop talking about you," Durian continued. "Your display a few days ago, it left quite the impression." Aarhiya shifted uncomfortably under the sudden attention. "They're even saying," Durian added, his voice laced with curiosity, "that you might be the one to bring the sun back to Umbraeth." The room grew quieter. All eyes slowly turned to Aarhiya. "Tell us," Durian said, tilting his head slightly. "Is it true?" Aarhiya opened his mouth, unsure of what to say. "Enough." Kenar's voice cut sharply through the room. The temperature seemed to drop instantly. Durian paused. Kenar leaned forward slightly on his throne, his expression hard. "What Lenreya does or doesn't do is none of your concern," he said coldly. A heavy silence followed. "You should focus on matters that actually concern the kingdom," Kenar added. Durian held his gaze for a moment. Then he gave a small, calm smile. "My apologies, Your Majesty," he said smoothly. "I only asked out of concern for the kingdom." Kenar's eyes hardened even more. The look he gave Durian was enough to make the air feel suffocating. Durian didn't push further. Instead, he straightened slightly. "Speaking of concerns," he said, shifting the topic, "there's something more urgent." The room grew attentive again. "A group of demonic-wielding mages has been causing chaos near the kingdom's borders," Durian announced. A few ministers exchanged uneasy glances. "They are extremely dangerous," he continued. "They've been killing civilians, and using their blood for dark rituals." A faint murmur of horror spread across the room. "The longer we delay, the more lives will be lost," Durian said. They must be dealt with immediately. Kenar didn't hesitate. I'll go, he said. The room stilled. Aarhiya's head snapped toward him. Durian blinked slightly. Your Majesty, he began carefully, General. I said I'll go, Kenar repeated firmly. There was no room for argument in his tone. Durian tried again. It would be more appropriate for the general to handle. Kenar suddenly stood up. The sharp movement silenced everyone. My people are being killed, he said, his voice low but filled with intensity. And you expect me to sit here? No one answered. Kenar's jaw tightened. I must have grown soft, he added bitterly. If my enemies no longer fear me. Aarhiya felt his chest tighten at those words. Kenar turned sharply. I'll be leaving as soon as possible, he declared. Send word to the general. Have the troops prepared. A nearby soldier immediately bowed. Yes, Your Majesty. Without another word, Kenar stepped down from the throne and began walking out. Aarhiya hesitated for only a second before quickly following after him. Your Majesty, he called, worry clear in his voice. But Kenar didn't stop. He kept walking. Aarhiya hurried after him, his heart uneasy. The moment they stepped into the room, Aarhiya didn't even give Kenar time to settle. Don't go. The words came out immediately, almost breathless. Kenar paused mid-step, then slowly turned to look at him. Aarhiya walked closer, his brows drawn together, worry written all over his face. You don't have to handle this yourself, he continued. Send the general. Or anyone else. Just, don't go. Kenar stared at him for a second. Then, unexpectedly, he smiled. A small, amused smile. Are you worried about me? He asked. Aarhiya froze slightly. That's not. Kenar took a step closer, his eyes searching Aarhiya's face. I thought you made it clear, he said lightly, though there was something deeper beneath his tone. You don't love me. The words stung more than Aarhiya expected. So why should it matter what happens to me? Aarhiya clenched his fists slightly. That's not the same thing, he said quickly. Kenar raised an eyebrow. It isn't. No, Aarhiya insisted. We've spent time together. We've grown close over the past few months. It's normal for me to worry about you. For a moment, Kenar just looked at him. Then his expression softened. I see. Before Aarhiya could react, Kenar pulled him into a hug. Aarhiya stiffened in surprise. But only for a second. Slowly, he relaxed. Kenar's arms around him felt warm. Familiar. Dangerously comforting. I don't know what you're so afraid of, Kenar murmured softly. Aarhiya's breath caught slightly. But whatever it is, Kenar continued, tightening his hold just a little, I'll still be here. Aarhiya didn't respond. He couldn't. He just stood there, letting himself lean into the embrace he knew he shouldn't want this much. Don't worry about me, Kenar added gently. I'm not that easy to take down. He sighed. I'm the Emperor of Darkness, he said. The most feared man in the magic world. Aarhiya let out a quiet breath. I'll be fine. Still. Aarhiya said nothing. He just stayed there a moment longer, silently holding on to the feeling. Later that day, the palace gates opened. The concubines and palace servers all came out. Soldiers lined up. Horses ready. Aarhiya stood at a distance, his hands clenched slightly at his sides. Kenar mounted his horse with ease, giving out final instructions. Before he left, though, he turned toward Aarhiya. Their eyes met. Even from afar, Aarhiya could see it. That same calm confidence. And something else. Something softer. Kenar gestured to a group of guards nearby. Stay with her, he ordered. At all times. The guards nodded. Yes, your majesty. Then, without another word, Kenar turned and rode off with his men, disappearing into the dark horizon. Aarhiya stood there long after they were gone, just staring. He didn't know when tears fell down his eyes. Days passed. Slow. Heavy. Too quiet. There was no news. No message. Nothing. The palace carried on as usual, but the tension was there, subtle, unspoken. Everyone was waiting. But no one more than Aarhiya. Every sound made him turn. Every footstep made his heart jump. But it was never Kenar. Then came that night. Deep within the palace. Hidden away from prying eyes. Lenreya sat before an earthenware pot, her expression cold and focused. The room was dim, lit only by flickering flames. Beside her appeared Yami. Or rather, the thing wearing Yami's face. Lenreya didn't hesitate. She lifted a blade and sliced across her palm. Blood dripped slowly, steadily, into the pot below. Dark. Thick. Unforgiving. Already inside the pot were other mixtures. The blood of a chicken. The blood of a lion. And something else. Something far more disturbing. The blood of a young maiden. The real Yami. The one who had been killed weeks ago. Her identity stolen by the demon now standing calmly beside Lenreya. Lenreya began to chant. Low. Ancient. The words sounded wrong, like they didn't belong in the human world. Yami joined in. Their voices overlapped, echoing softly through the dark space. The mixture inside the pot began to react. At first, it bubbled. Then, it caught fire. A sudden, violent flame burst upward. Lenreya didn't flinch. She kept chanting. The fire burned fiercely for a few seconds. Then just as suddenly, it died, leaving behind a thick, dark liquid. Silence filled the room. Lenreya exhaled slowly. Then reached forward and carefully poured the mixture into a wine flask. The liquid slid in smoothly, looking almost normal. But the air around it felt heavy. Lenreya stared at it for a moment. Then, she smiled. A slow, satisfied, chilling smile. This time, she murmured softly, almost to herself, "There's no escape." Her eyes darkened. Lenreya won't survive this. A few days later, Aarhiya stood by the balcony, his hands resting lightly on the railing as he stared out into the distance. The sky was dull. Empty. Just like the past few days had felt. No news. No sign of Kenar. He exhaled slowly, his shoulders dropping a little. "Where are you?" he murmured under his breath. "Talking to the wind now." The voice startled him slightly. Aarhiya turned. And saw Mina approaching, along with a few of the other concubines. They were smiling, but there was curiosity in their eyes. "You've been standing here alone for quite a while," Mina said, folding her arms playfully. "It's starting to look suspicious." Aarhiya quickly straightened. "I'm not suspicious," he replied. "I was just getting some air." Mina raised an eyebrow. "Amicham. And the worried look on your face. That's just your imagination." The other women laughed softly. "Please," one of them said. "We've been watching you these past few days. You look like someone who lost something important." Aarhiya frowned slightly. "I'm fine." "Of course you are," Mina said, clearly not convinced. Then she clapped her hands lightly. "Come on. You need a distraction." Before Aarhiya could protest, they had already taken his arm. "Wait, where are we going?" "To the harem," Mina replied easily. "You look like you need a drink." Not long after, Aarhiya found himself seated among them, a cup of wine already in his hand. The atmosphere was lively. Too lively. Voices overlapping. Laughter. Questions coming from every direction. So tell us, one of them leaned forward eagerly, how powerful are you really? Is it true what they said? That you lit up the entire sky? I wasn't there, you know. Can you actually bring back the sun? Aarhiya blinked, slightly overwhelmed. I don't know about all that. Don't be modest, another teased. Aarhiya chuckled awkwardly and took another sip of wine, hoping it would distract them. But it didn't. If anything, it made them more curious. More persistent. He kept trying to answer, though most of his replies were vague and clumsy. Then suddenly, "Are you in love with the Emperor?" The question cut through the noise. Aarhiya choked slightly, nearly spitting out his drink. "What?" he coughed, wiping his mouth. "Why would you even ask that?" Mina leaned closer, her eyes narrowing slightly in amusement. "Because it's obvious." Aarhiya blinked. "Obvious?" She nodded. "The way he carried you during the moon festival," she said. "Do you remember that?" Aarhiya's expression stiffened. "Everyone saw it," Mina continued. "The way he looked at you, the way he held you like you were something precious." She tilted her head. "That's not how Kenar the Emperor is. Ever since you came, it's like he became a different person." Aarhiya looked away. "You're overthinking it." "Am I?" Mina pressed. A brief silence followed. Then Aarhiya spoke quietly. "I don't have the right to love him." The words were soft, but heavy. Mina's expression changed slightly. She leaned closer, lowering her voice. "You shouldn't worry about that," she whispered. "If anything, a lot of us would support you." Aarhiya looked at her, surprised. "Especially if it means Lenreya doesn't become empress," she added with a small smirk. A few of the others nodded in agreement. Aarhiya didn't know what to say to that. But before he could respond, the atmosphere shifted. The laughter died down. The room grew quiet. Aarhiya turned and saw Lenreya standing at the entrance. A slow, mocking smile spread across her lips. "Well, well," she said, her voice smooth but sharp. "If it isn't our little sun goddess." Aarhiya's expression hardened slightly. He stood up immediately. "I should go," he said. But just as he tried to walk past her, Lenreya stepped forward, blocking his path. "Relax," she said lightly. "I'm not here to fight." Aarhiya frowned. Lenreya sighed. "Honestly, I'm tired of it," she continued. "All this tension, it's exhausting." Aarhiya didn't respond. He didn't trust her. Not even a little. "Yami," Lenreya called out. "Bring the drinks." Yami stepped forward silently, carrying a flask. She poured the wine into 2 cups and handed them over. Lenreya took one and extended the other toward Aarhiya. "Let's call a truce," she said. Aarhiya hesitated. His eyes flickered from the cup to Lenreya. Suspicion was written all over his face. Lenreya noticed. And smirked. Then, without hesitation, she lifted her cup and drank from it. Aarhiya watched closely. Nothing happened. A long pause. Then slowly, he reached for the other cup. "Fine," he muttered. He brought it to his lips and drank. Lenreya's smile widened just slightly. "A wise choice." Aarhiya gave a small nod. "Truce." Without saying anything else, he turned and walked away. Lenreya watched him leave. And smiled. By the time Aarhiya reached his room, something felt off. He slowed down. His steps becoming uneven. "What?" he murmured. The hallway suddenly felt too long. Too distorted. His vision blurred slightly. Aarhiya stumbled back slightly, his breathing quickening. No, no. His head spun. The images wouldn't stop. The smell. The sight. It all felt too real. What is happening to me? He whispered, his voice shaking. The moment he stepped inside his room, his legs gave out. And he collapsed hard onto the floor. Everything went dark. That same day. Toda knocked lightly on Aarhiya's door. Lenreya, she called. You haven't come out all day. At least eat something. Silence. She frowned. That's enough sulking, she added, a little more firmly. Open the door. Still nothing. Toadi's brows drew together. Lenreya. A strange feeling crept into her chest. Without wasting another second, she pushed the door open. The moment she stepped inside, she froze. Aarhiya was lying on the floor. Completely still. Lenreya. She rushed to his side immediately, dropping to her knees. His skin looked pale. Too pale. Lenreya, wake up, she called, gently shaking him. No response. Her heart started racing. She tapped his cheek lightly. Then harder. Lenreya. Can you hear me? Nothing. Not even a twitch. Panic began to set in. No, 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 she muttered, her hands trembling slightly. Toadi's expression changed completely. Guards, she shouted at the top of her voice. Someone come quickly. Moments later. The room was filled with tension. The royal physician knelt beside Aarhiya, carefully examining him while Toda stood nearby, her arms tightly folded, her face filled with worry. Outside the room, Mina and the other concubines had gathered, whispering anxiously among themselves. However, Mina glanced suspiciously at Lenreya, who stood slightly apart from them. She was quiet. Watching. Waiting. Inside. The physician slowly pulled his hand back, his expression troubled. Well? Toda asked immediately. What's wrong with her? The physician hesitated. It's difficult to say. Toada's eyes widened. What do you mean difficult to say? He sighed. I've checked her pulse. Her breathing. There's no physical wound, no visible illness. Toada's patience snapped. Then why is she unconscious? The physician looked at Aarhiya again, his gaze heavy. This isn't something ordinary, he said slowly. It feels spiritual. Toada blinked. Spiritual? He nodded. It's as if his body is here, he continued, but his spirit is somewhere else. A chill ran down Toada's spine. What does that even mean? She demanded. The physician swallowed slightly. It means, she's caught between life and death. It's only her own will, the physician added quietly, and her spiritual strength that can bring her back. Toada clenched her fists. No. There has to be something we can do. The physician didn't answer. Because he didn't have one. Not long after. A figure entered the room quietly. Whitey. The blind elder. Toada turned immediately. You came, she said, relief flashing briefly across her face. Good. Whitey said nothing at first. She simply stepped closer. Slowly. Calmly. Then she stopped beside Aarhiya and leaned down. Her sightless eyes seemed to stare right through him. The room grew still. Even the air felt heavier. After a few seconds, Whitey sighed softly. I see. Toada stepped forward quickly. You know what's happening? Whitey nodded faintly. I do. Hope flickered in Toada's eyes. Then fix it, she snapped. She's dying. Whitey remained calm. I cannot. Toada froze. What? I cannot interfere, Whitey said gently. Toda stared at her in disbelief. She's about to die and you're telling me you can't interfere? Her voice rose, filled with frustration. You know what's wrong and you're just going to stand there and do nothing. Whitey's expression didn't change. This is beyond us, she said quietly. It is the will of the heavens. That's nonsense. Toda snapped. Everything has its balance, Whitey interrupted softly. And every action, its consequence. Whitey turned her head slightly. Though her eyes could not see, it felt like she was looking straight through the walls. Straight outside. Toward the waiting figures. Her gaze lingered. In the direction of Lenreya. A faint, knowing smile touched her lips. Whoever is responsible, she said calmly, will face their reckoning. Outside, Lenreya's smile faltered for just a fraction of a second. Inside, Toda followed Whitey's gaze, her confusion deepening. What are you talking about? But Whitey only smiled. What will happen, she said softly. Toda stared at her, frustration bubbling over. Then what are we supposed to do? Just watch her die. Whitey shook her head slightly. No. A small pause. Send word to Kenar. He needs to know, Whitey said simply. She let out an irritated breath, turning away. Useless, she muttered under her breath. A blind old woman who's lost her touch. Whitey heard it. But she didn't react. She only smiled quietly to herself. As if she knew something no one else did. Nello stirred awake slowly, blinking sleep out of his eyes as he sat up. He ran a hand through his hair, letting out a small breath before getting out of bed and heading toward the living room. The moment he stepped in, he stopped. Polar was there. Bent over his work table, head resting on his arm, completely asleep. Scrolls, herbs, strange tools, and half-finished mixtures were scattered everywhere around him. It looked like he had been working for hours, maybe even all night. Nello leaned against the doorway, folding his arms. You really don't know when to stop, do you? He muttered quietly. There was something about it. The focus. The dedication. It was impressive. But that wasn't the only thing Nello noticed. His eyes lingered on Polar's face, even in sleep, looked calm. Soft. Completely different from his usual serious expression whenever he was working. Nello swallowed slightly. He pushed himself off the wall and took a slow step closer. Then another. Before he knew it, he was standing right in front of him. Close enough to notice every small detail. What is wrong with me? Nello whispered. His hand lifted slightly. Hesitating. Hovering just inches away from Polar's face. I'm not actually going to. The loud knock shattered the silence. Nello jumped slightly, quickly pulling his hand back like he'd been burned. Polar jolted awake immediately, lifting his head with a sharp inhale. Huh? What? Nello straightened instantly, turning away and pretending to casually look around the room. You should really learn to sleep properly, he said, as if nothing had happened. Polar blinked at him, still half dazed. Were you just... The knock came again, louder this time. Polar frowned and stood up. I'll get it. He walked to the door and opened it. A palace guard stood outside. Sir Polar, he said quickly, bowing his head. You're needed at the palace immediately. Polar's brows furrowed. At this hour? It's urgent. Polar didn't ask any more questions. All right. I'm coming. Nello straightened. I'm coming too. Polar gave him a brief look but didn't argue. Something about the guard's tone already told them. This wasn't normal. Not long after, they arrived at the palace. The atmosphere felt heavy the moment they stepped inside. Servants whispered nervously. Something was wrong. Very wrong. As soon as they entered the room, Nello saw him. Aarhiya. Lying motionless on the bed. His heart dropped. He moved instantly, rushing forward without thinking. But a hand grabbed his arm firmly. Wait. Polar. Nello turned sharply. Let go of me. Not yet, Polar said calmly, though his grip didn't loosen. Let me understand what's happening first. Nello clenched his jaw but stopped. Barely. Polar turned to Todi. What happened? Todi exhaled shakily. Collapsed, she said. We don't know why. The physician says it's something spiritual. Polar's expression darkened slightly. He walked over to Aarhiya immediately. He leaned down, examining Aarhiya closely. Checking his pulse. His breathing. His eyes. Then he placed a hand lightly over his chest, as if trying to sense something deeper. A few seconds passed. Then his brows furrowed. Strange. Todi stepped closer. What is it? Polar sighed. Something's blocking, he said. Blocking him? Todi repeated. Yes, Polar replied. It's like, something is preventing me from seeing what's really going on. That only made the tension worse. But I'll figure it out, he added calmly. He straightened slightly. I need to take a sample. Todi didn't hesitate. Do whatever you need to do. Polar nodded. He carefully drew a small amount of blood from Aarhiya, his movements precise and controlled. Nello stood nearby, watching everything, his fists clenched tightly. He'll be fine, Polar said without looking at him. Panicking won't help. Nello didn't respond. He just kept staring at Aarhiya. After a moment, Polar finished and stepped back. I'll analyze this, he said. Then he turned. Let's go. But Nello didn't move. I'm not leaving. Polar paused. Nello's voice was firm. I'm staying with him. Todi glanced at him curiously. Who is he? She asked quietly. Polar sighed. A friend, he replied simply. Then he grabbed Nello's arm again. Come on. Nello resisted for a second. But Polar pulled him anyway. You won't help him by standing here, he added. Nello gritted his teeth but allowed himself to be dragged along. Just as they reached the door, something changed. A sudden glow filled the room. Everyone froze. They turned. And saw it. Aarhiya's body. Surrounded by a soft, radiant golden light. It pulsed gently, like it was alive. The entire room fell silent. Shock written across every face. Todi took a step forward slowly. Aarhiya. No one had ever seen anything like it. And no one knew what it meant.
Everywhere Aarhiya turned there was blood. Thick, endless, staining the ground beneath his feet, dripping from invisible wounds, filling the air with a metallic scent that made it hard to breathe. He stumbled forward. What is this? Then the screams started. Loud, piercing, all around him. He covered his ears, shaking his head. Stop, stop. But they didn't stop. If anything, they grew louder. And then, he saw himself. A younger version. Small, fragile, pathetic. Aarhiya froze. No. The memory played out in front of him like it was happening all over again. Lenreya stood there, her lips curled in that same cruel smile. Is this all you can do? She mocked. Her henchman laughed behind her. He saw himself being thrown to the ground. Humiliated. Mocked. You're useless. The words echoed. Another scene. Water. Cold. Suffocating. He saw himself struggling, gasping, sinking. While Lenreya stood above, laughing. Maybe the water will make you stronger, she sneered. Aarhiya's chest tightened. Stop. Another shift. The council hall. His father sat at the head, shoulders heavy, eyes tired. Ministers whispered. Your Majesty, the prince is too weak.
You must remarry. Produce stronger heirs. He cannot lead. Aarhiya felt his throat close up. Then, his father's face, stern, unyielding, filled with disappointment over his failure of a son. Another image, Draken, smirking, looking at him like he was some broken thing to be fixed. You should be grateful, Draken said. I'm saving you. Then, the people, their whispers, their stares. That's the one. The child who killed his mother. He's cursed. Aarhiya staggered back, clutching his head. Stop it, please stop. But the voices only got louder. The images faster. Relentless. You're weak. You're nothing. You don't deserve to exist. Stop it. Aarhiya screamed, dropping to his knees. He shut his eyes tightly, his whole body shaking. I don't want to see this anymore. I don't want to. Aarhiya. The voice was soft, gentle, cut through everything. Aarhiya's breath hitched. Aarhiya. Slowly, he opened his eyes, and everything changed. The blood was gone. The screams had vanished. He was no longer in darkness. Instead, he stood in a beautiful garden, bright, peaceful, filled with warmth, and in the center of it was a woman. Her golden hair shimmered like sunlight, glowing softly around her. Her presence alone felt comforting, safe. She smiled at him and reached out her hand. Aarhiya, she said gently. What's wrong? Aarhiya stared at her, his eyes wide, his voice small. I don't want to be here anymore. The words came out broken. The world, it's hopeless. His hands trembled. I'm not enough. I've never been enough. The woman's expression softened. She stepped closer and took his hand. Her touch was warm. Real. Is that truly what you believe? She asked quietly. Aarhiya lowered his gaze. Yes. She shook her head slowly. Even after everything, there are still people who love you. Aarhiya frowned slightly. Love me? You are not alone, she said firmly. You've just been looking at the wrong things. She lifted his chin gently. Look beyond the hatred, she continued, and see what lies beneath it. Aarhiya's breathing slowed slightly. There is darkness around you, she said, her voice growing more serious. So much of it. Evil that seeks to extinguish your light. But you must not let it. Her eyes shone brightly. You were not meant to disappear, Aarhiya. You were meant to shine. Her grip tightened slightly. And the only way you can overcome that darkness, she paused, is to remember the people who love you. Aarhiya closed his eyes. And then, the memories came. Majel, Char, standing in front of him, protecting him, leave him alone, fighting for him when he couldn't fight for himself. Then, laughter. The three of them together, drinking, smiling, carefree. Another shift. Nello, running beside him through the palace as children, laughing, growing together, standing side by side through everything. Don't worry, I've got you. Then, his father, not the stern king, but a gentle man, holding him, tucking him into bed.
I love you.
A warm smile, a reassuring touch, and finally, Kenar, standing before him, looking at him like he mattered, like he was enough.
I love you.
Aarhiya's eyes snapped open. Kenar. Tears filled his eyes instantly. I'm scared, he admitted, his voice breaking. I'm scared he'll hate me. His hands clenched slightly. That scares me more than anything. The woman smiled softly. I know, but you can't let fear hold you back. I'm proud of you. Aarhiya looked up at her. Move forward without fear, she said gently. You will accomplish what I could not. Aarhiya's breath caught. Who are you? She smiled. Warm. Loving as tears filled her eyes and she touches his cheeks. My son. And then, she vanished. Aarhiya's eyes widened. Mother? He looked around desperately. Wait, don't go. But she was gone. Silence filled the garden. Then he heard a voice. Please, come back to me. The voice was shaking, filled with desperation. I'll do anything, just come back. Aarhiya's chest tightened. I'm here, he whispered. I'm coming. A light appeared in the distance. And there, he saw him. Kenar, standing with his back turned. A faint glow surrounding him. Kenar. Aarhiya ran. Faster. Desperate. He reached him. And threw his arms around him. The moment he did, everything shattered. Aarhiya's body jolted. He gasped sharply, pulling in a deep breath as his eyes flew open. Air rushed into his lungs like he had been drowning. Kenar's voice. Right there. Aarhiya blinked rapidly, his vision clearing. And there he was. Kenar. Close. Too close. His face looked broken. Eyes red. Like he hadn't slept. Like he had been crying. But the moment he saw Aarhiya awake, he pulled him into a tight embrace. Aarhiya didn't hesitate. He held on to him just as tightly. I love you, Aarhiya said immediately. The words rushed out. I lied before. I didn't mean it. His grip tightened. I don't want to run away anymore. Kenar pulled back slightly, searching his face. Hope flickered in his eyes. But he shook his head gently. Don't talk too much, he said softly. You need to rest. Just focus on getting better. But even then, he didn't let go. Meanwhile, concubines stood at the corridor, whispering among themselves, their faces a mix of excitement and disbelief. Then suddenly, Lenreya staggered. A small cough escaped her lips. What? Before she could finish, she coughed again. This time, blood spilled from her mouth. The room froze. Lenreya? Her body gave out beneath her, collapsing to the ground. The concubine screamed, rushing toward her in panic. Meanwhile, far from the chaos of the palace, Polar sat at his work table, completely focused. Aarhiya's blood sample rested in a small glass vial before him. At first, everything seemed normal. But the longer he studied it, the more his expression changed. That's strange. His brows furrowed. No, that's not possible. He checked again. More carefully this time. Then a third time. Silence filled the room. This isn't female blood, he said slowly. His eyes narrowed. This belongs to a man. He leaned back slightly, his mind already racing. Pieces. Fragments. Memories. They began to connect. Nello's voice echoed in his head. The way he always referred to Lenreya. Not as a she but he. Polar's fingers tapped lightly against the table. And that name. Aarhiya. Rare. Uncommon. Too uncommon to be a coincidence. His gaze sharpened. Without hesitation, he raised his hand slightly, murmuring a low incantation. A faint glow formed in front of him, magic responding to his call. Who owns the name Aarhiya? He whispered. The air shimmered. Then, information began to take form. A name. A lineage. A truth hidden beneath layers of deception. Polar's eyes widened slightly. Prince Aarhiya of Luminar. Everything clicked into place. So that's it. His voice was low, almost impressed. A disguise. His gaze dropped to the vial again. The blood doesn't lie. A slow breath left him. Lenreya was never Lenreya. A small pause. He was Aarhiya all along. The door creaked open. Nello stepped in carrying a bundle of herbs. I got what you asked for. He stopped. Polar was staring at him. Not casually. Not normally. But intensely. Like he already knew something. Nello frowned slightly. What? Polar didn't respond immediately. He just walked closer. We need to talk. Nello's grip tightened slightly around the herbs. About what? Polar's gaze didn't waver. Tell me the truth, he said. Nello's expression stiffened. What truth? Polar didn't hesitate. About Lenreya. Nello blinked once, then let out a small, forced chuckle. What are you talking about? But Polar wasn't buying it. Not even a little. His voice turned sharp. Stop pretending. The room went still. Nello's smile faded. And then, Polar said it. Clear. Direct. Unavoidable. Lenreya isn't a woman. Pause. His eyes locked onto Nello's. He's Prince Aarhiya of Luminar. Silence. Heavy. Suffocating. Nello's heart dropped. For a split second, his composure cracked. You. He stopped himself. But it was too late. Polar saw it. That flicker of panic. That hesitation. And that was all the confirmation he needed. Nello swallowed hard, his mind racing. How much do you know? He asked quietly. And just like that, everything changed. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Can you predict what will happen in the next episode? Do let us know in the comments below. Love you all. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more updates.